Hello, it's Nancy with Gardens Grow, and I'm just outside today enjoying this beautiful weather. I've got a million things to do and a million things I want to do, but I also want to spend a little bit of time just looking at all the beautiful color. Everything's still in bloom, everything's gorgeous, and I want to enjoy it. The weather is letting us enjoy it after that oppressive heat of summer, and some of the plants are coming out of it and renewing themselves and looking great. And I would like to have some of my community and church friends over soon for a little get together. It'll be the last get together probably, and I need to bring, for sure, I've been hesitant to bring in the house plants, but I'll definitely need to bring them in soon, because by the end of this coming week the temperatures will be going down to 44 degrees in the night. So I'm hoping that we'll still have one more beautiful week left, and I'm hoping I get some things done so that I can just enjoy some time in the garden. That's always my goal, to get to do that. But right now, just so much to do, and yet so much out there just waiting for me to take pictures of and enjoy. Oh, look at this. This is that Chinese dunce cap. I guess we can see why it's called dunce cap now. I always wondered when it was just these pretty little rosettes, but now I know. But anyway, the garden is just, I can't wait to get out in it today. I want to be at my niece's wedding reception. I want to be at my granddaughter's baptism service. I want to help my mother with a project that she needs a little help on. And I just want to do so much, but also, like I say, I just want to enjoy this beautiful garden for one of the last times. It's so hard to see it go away. So hard for that first frost to come and take everything out, or at least take the annuals out, which takes a lot of color out, because just looking right here, I'm seeing that the yellow is the Esperanza. That's a house plant, or at least it's a non-hardy plant. I'll need to bring it inside. Behind it there, if I can get it from here, oh, see those little blue butterflies dancing around. That is a blue butterfly plant. I got mine from Logi's, which I love their catalog. It's just full of gorgeous plants, and they have a lot of the tropical annuals or tropical non-hardy plants that I love, and I love them in the garden for those little extra things to bring excitement to the garden. And of course some of the others will go too, but I'm thinking also of this beautiful coleus. They do not like the cold at all. They'll curl up and go when it gets down to 44 degrees, and even before that sometimes they do go out of the garden. So I can show you actually as we go right up here. These, they didn't make it very long. That first frost just kind of nipped them, and they've been hanging on, but that's about all they've been able to do. And then these are house plants. They're called dragon's tree. When I first got these, I actually used them for a spike, and they worked great, but then as they grew up a little bit, I realized that these are not just really spikes. So I looked it up, and they are called dragon's tree. And so I think they may even be dragon's tree Dracaena. So I have another one of those too, and this is a corn. Dracaena is this pretty little plant right here, and I love it. Of course the spikes will need to be taken in. I love my burgundy spikes. There's just so much I want to enjoy it one more time. And I'm more of a solitary person, so I don't get with people just a whole lot, but I do try to have one last fling in the garden, because I think the garden deserves that. It deserves to be seen and appreciated just one more time before it has to go away. Now this is a house plant. I love this plant. It's a foxtail fern, and I'll bring it in and it will start to suffer. I do not do well with house plants. So when it gets this full and beautiful, I just have to enjoy. But that'll be another thing I'll need to bring inside. There's just so much that needs to come inside. This is a pretty heliotrope. It is a non-hardy annual. I don't know if it would even make it bring it inside or not, but I probably won't. I just don't have room to bring a whole lot in, and yet I will bring a whole lot in. This pretty little ivy will come inside and look like death whenever I bring it out, but hopefully there'll be some life left and it'll start to come back like this again. I love it, and I love this beautiful little variegated Swedish ivy too, and I've never got one of those to live through the winter, but I will try again and keep trying till I get that figured out. If you haven't tried the annual butterfly weed, you probably would like to do that because it's so pretty. Now it does not really get in bloom until late summer, early fall, so you would want other plants there too, and because if you just depended on it for color, you wouldn't get much color until the fall. But it's so pretty. I love it, and the butterflies love it, and it's just wonderful to have in the garden. I hope I can get some seed of it from this to come back, but if not, I most likely will go ahead and order me some more seeds because I just love this little plant. And I'm seeing as I'm looking through here that I do have another hibiscus bloom. I might have to get over there so I can get it a little bit closer, but on my variegated hibiscus, which is another house plant or non-hardy plant that will have to be brought inside. It's so pretty. I love it. And I put this little peacock right here in it, and it just looks like the rest of the hibiscus is part of her plumes. So, and then as we go down to the bottom part of this little hibiscus right here, you can see this pretty red bloom. I love these. They're not quite as big as some of my hibiscus blooms are, but of course they're bright and red. And then I love this little hang down pendulum stamen that it has. So pretty. And these wonderful little impatiens are actually looking great today. They just kind of sat there and did nothing most of the summer, but now they're thinking, oh, this weather's so nice. And then right up above it and hanging down in that little redbird's face is some more of that beautiful variegated Swedish ivy. And I know most people have this in their homes, and it does so well for them, and I cannot get it too. But I'm going to try again. This year I'm going to try putting it in some cactus soil. I don't know if that will work, but that's what I'm going to try, because it always seems like maybe it kind of just gets too wet and soggy, and I can't keep it either watered good enough or drained well enough. So I'm going to try that. It certainly worked on this. I've told you before, but I could not get a aloe to live. I just couldn't. And this one's all soggy and heavy and hanging down. I thought it was going to die, and I just put cactus soil there, and it just decided, hey, I want to live here. And so it's just done so wonderful for me. Before I get too excited, I'll have to tell you that we haven't yet seen what that will do inside, but I'm going to give that a try too, and hopefully it will live. So I am going to try to finish this a little bit quickly. I don't know if that'll really happen or not, but I want to, because I just want to roam around out here a little bit. Even though I have a great deal I need to get done today, I want to just sit back a little bit and enjoy, because I know that there's so much to do that I'll never get to just really sit back and dream of next year's garden. And you may think that's not a good time, but if you're a gardener, you know that it is. It's the most perfect time I've found to sit back and look at the garden and realize, you know, there's a kind of an empty spot there, or these colors, one bloomed at one time and one bloomed at another time, and I was hoping they would bloom together so that I could have color. The two contrasting colors are matching colors. So you think all that stuff, and you can look out and realize, you can really realize what you need to do and how you need to change it. And if you take a pad and a pencil or an ink pen and just get out there and write all that stuff down, so you'll have that information for next spring. And you may think, well, I can do that in the spring when I'm doing it, but actually the spring gets so full of just cleaning out the garden is a tremendous job for me. It's just so much I can hardly get it done at all. That once I get it done, then the planting begins. So I'll want to replace so many of these beautiful coleus. This one here is dipped in wine, and I'll take a little sprig of that in the house. Whether or not I can save it, I don't yet know, but I will definitely try. And I have saved some. I actually saved this little dipped in wine in a glass in the window, and also this beautiful color Saurus. I saved it in a glass in the window. I actually saved this copper plant in the window, and it's been needing to come out. You can tell it's got nipped from the cold, and its color is a little, I don't know, kind of weepy looking, like it may have gotten too cold. It probably has. Now the leaves down under here have not. You can tell they're still crisp and pretty. So I just need to get them in time, and that's hard for me to do. I always want them out here for my last little fling. So, but I also know that I want to try to bring some of them inside. Now, some of these I won't probably try to save in a glass, because I'll just wait and get those probably in the spring when they're new. A lot of times they don't make it through the winter anyway, and these are pretty readily found. Now some of these others, like this pretty little ruffled green coleus, and it has different shades of green in it too, so it's just a very pretty plant. I will definitely try to bring some of that inside and save it for next year. This is the back side of that little hanging basket that I showed you just a little bit ago from the front side. And my coleus in this little pot did not do well. I so wanted them to come on up and be above her shoulders there and just really fill this out, but I'm still proud of it. It's still beautiful, even if my little coleus just kind of sat there and did nothing mostly. But it's the impatience just totally made up for any lacking in my coleus, because they just stayed full and pretty. And ever since our weather has gotten just a little bit cooler, cool enough we can get out, and I'm not saying cool, but you know what I mean. It's just not hot anymore. It's just nice, so nice. But I know the cool is coming. We've had some cool nights already, and most people bring their houseplants in September, and I probably should. I'm going to try to start doing that and stop trying to save it for my last fling in the garden. But I say that every year, and then every year I think, but it's still nice. They'll be fine out there for a little bit longer. Oh, and this is probably, I don't know that it's my last bloom, because I see I do have a bud right there, so maybe it'll have a chance to bloom. But if it doesn't, let me be sure and get this beautiful bright Mexican flame vine bloom on here for you. I am so proud of this silver sage, and I actually will probably try to save that too, although my last attempt, all I did was bring it inside to watch it die. This is a biennial. It will live a second year, but it's not cold hardy, so it has to be brought in, and therein is my problem, because I just don't do well with inside plants at all. They just don't like my house, but I'm going to keep trying. But isn't that beautiful? I just love it. So as you notice, the wind is up a little bit, but it's not a real problem. It's kind of nice out, actually, and the mums, more and more of them, are beginning to open up and show their pretty fall colors. By the time we have our little get together, I think most of them will probably be open and just really shining. This is my husband's favorite time of the year. He loves the fall colors of the garden. And I've learned to love it too. As I told you, I didn't realize how precious those few fleeting moments are. And that is so much like our lives, when we finally have that time we don't have to get up and go to work, go to a job every day, and every minute of our life is kind of controlled by somebody or something else that we need to do. Even though the biggest portion of us just fill it up anyway and still don't have time to do everything we want to do. But I am so grateful to get to have this garden. I'm so grateful that the Lord allowed me to be able to finally quit working and start working in the garden. But it's been such a joy not to do the work. You know, I've whined all through the heat. I've wondered, am I going to even make it, and what's the point in even making it, because the poor little garden is suffering. So is anything even going to be there by the end of the summer's heat? Am I going to be able to keep it alive? And then fall comes. Oh, those beautiful, beautiful days of fall. Those few fleeting days before winter sets in. I just love it. Here's another little house plant, this Crossandra right here. And I did put it in a bigger pot to bring it inside. But this is the pretty little bloom on the Crossandra plant. Of course, this little shrimp plant is another house plant that I need to bring inside. I definitely don't want to lose any of this. This is another one of the copper plants. It just grew tall. It didn't spread out hardly at all, but isn't it beautiful? I love it. And this, I'll need to clip all this back to where I can bring it inside and keep it over winter, bring it back out next spring. Hopefully that's the plan anyway. And then I told you, but I just love this beautiful begonia in the fall. The rest of the time it just kind of sits there and doesn't do much, but when fall comes, it's so ready to go. Shiny and beautiful. And this is my other little silver sage, which did not get as big, but it's still pretty and I still love it. I'll probably try bringing both of them in and see if I can get them to live through the winter, but I can't put too much hope in that, but I'm going to definitely try. Look at this beautiful little strawberry drop plant. I just took a clipping and put it in here. Just, I don't really even remember exactly when it was, but it was it was later on in the season for sure, and I took it from that one in the back that I'm always showing you that just billowed out and covered up, and now this one is beginning to do a little bit of that billowing out and covering things up itself. But I love this little plant. And I see another one of my mums is beginning to open. It still has a ways to go, but it will soon be in full bloom too, I believe. And then there's that pretty chocolate plant. I wait all summer for these beautiful little white tufts. I just love them. Sometimes when I look at it in the summertime, I imagine them there. And I just saw that hiding down here is a beautiful little tie-dye morning glory. The tie-dye morning glories are not quite as invasive as the regular kind. They can still get invasive, but not as easily. They're easier to take care of to keep them from being invasive. And then this is in the morning glory family, like a bush morning glory. It's called Blue Days, and it can be a beautiful little plant too when it fills up with bloom. This is my hydrangea, and I know it looks terrible right now because of the heat, and I haven't clipped it back. I just want to let it live. That's my main thing right now. It's just I have had a hard time getting hydrangeas going. I don't know why, but I certainly have, and so I'm hoping to someday have some in bloom. The beautiful cigar plant that's sprawling out all over the place. And it's just in this tiny little pot right down here. This little square pot. And it's doing well. Although I did almost lose it through the summer's heat, but it has rebounded very well. Beautiful, beautiful purple splash pepper. I call it that. I call it beautiful. It is called purple splash or purple flash. I've heard it called both, but it's a very beautiful plant. I just love the coloring on this plant, and also on this one. It's just a Plectranthus Mona lavender, and they're just wonderful, especially in the fall, but they're just beautiful all the time. It's just that they come into their own and get full and beautiful in the fall. And then this little plant is a Butilon flowering maple, and this is the biggest it's ever been for me. I've been able to save it a couple of years. I believe I know 1 year, I think 2 years, through the winter inside my home, and brought it back out. So I'm hoping to be able to do that again, and I'll probably have to show you its bloom in the winter time when it's inside the house, but I will definitely do that for you. See these little buds? They're thinking about opening up, and it's gonna be gorgeous when it does. I could not have been more proud of this little strawberry pot and filling it out with impatiens. I found the thing I want in my strawberry pot is the impatiens. I've tried several things and they all looked okay, but to me this looks much better than just okay. I think it's just so pretty. I love it. I love it. And it did all fill out. There is one in the back that died out, and I think I actually had a couple that died out from roly-polies getting in there, but once I got it going good, other than the one in the back, they all lived and kept it full and so beautiful. I love it so much. And look at this one little profusion zinnia. What a beautiful bouquet. I love the profusion zinnias for pots especially, or they would be beautiful on a front border too. They're so pretty. I've been waiting for this to get in the sun just right so I could show you its beauty, but so far I may have missed my opportunity. It seems to be turning more of a brown now, but if you could get that in the light just right, it's a beauty too when it begins to change its color. I have not yet trimmed back my iris, and I need to do that. I much prefer to trim these back while they're solid and easier to cut, because after they freeze, that top of course will just be flopping everywhere and you can't tell where it's connected to its little rhizome or where it's just flopping around on the ground. So it's just so much easier. If I get the time, I will definitely try to do that before frost comes, or before a freeze comes. Look at this beautiful ball zinnia. Of course, they're all pretty, but I love the ball zinnias a little bit more. I love them all, but they're a favorite. And I planted some different kind of marigolds. Isn't that beautiful? I planted these in July, so I wasn't sure they would make it, but they have. Now this is of course a cactus zinnia, and I love it too. I love that little spiky look, which is probably what I'm liking about these marigolds too. And I just now noticed that I have one lone little chrysanthemum in yellow there, the football mum yellow, and I'm hoping that it will spread out and I will have a big huge clump of them. And the Sahara zinnias, they have been wonderful too. They have just a huge big bloom, and yet they have a short, the foliage is short on them, so that they're great for use in pots also. I'm going to take this one off right now because it's getting brown, and I will use this for seed for next year. Look at these pretty asters. Oh wait, I'm sorry, they're the color of an aster. This is actually a mum. This is a mum. I'll probably have to give up on my idea of getting a hibiscus to grow from seed. This is my last little try. It's still alive, but I think it's too small for me to ever be able to save it in my home through the winter. You know I'll try. So that's the front yard, and I told you I was going to try to hurry, and here I am. Only got the front finished, so I guess I will go in the back. I don't want you to miss this either. So now we're in the backyard, and you can see all the beautiful fall colors coming on in the back. And you can see that my husband and his brother started a project and didn't finish it. So I have brick all over the place. But look at this little, well, not actually a walkway, but kind of a border for me they made. Isn't that gorgeous? They did it so straight and pretty, and I just love it. It was a lot of work for them, but they did a good job. And just look at this beautiful salvia. This beautiful red salvia is just shining for fall too. And right behind it there, if you can see, the white is some white gara. And I love these two plants planted. Well, I've got the gara in the back of it. You could plant it side by side or in the back, and I think they would still intermingle with each other. And it just makes them so beautiful. So when we have our little last fall fling for the garden, I'm going to try not to look at it as it dying. I'm going to try to look at it as the life it lives, because it was a wonderful, beautiful garden, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I learned quite a bit from it. I know I have a lot to go, a long ways to go to learn enough to be able to keep it beautiful, but I'm going to keep trying, and as you can see, it has definitely grown. So much of my family is in this garden too, because they've given me plants and painted stuff for me. My granddaughter Lily Mae painted this little dog for me, and my brother painted almost everything that you see out here. I think I painted this little boy and girl here, but I'll just keep going right over there and get to the one that he painted for me, or some of them. There's a lot more than one that he did for me, but this is one he painted for me. He painted so many of them for me, and he was taking treatments for cancer, and he did pass away from cancer, and it's just a sad thing for me, but I just know that he did all this so that I would think of him out here in the garden, and it was wonderful. It's so wonderful to have a brother that would do that for me. How precious is that? I wish I could spend the whole day out here just relaxing, having a glass of tea. I know people think I do that all the time, but it's not true at all. There's so much to do that I just stay so busy. And of course in the summer, even though I am busy, it's also just so hot. I couldn't enjoy it anyway when sweat's pouring down. But you got to keep it through the rough times to get to the good times, and that's just another way the garden is like life. And I planted this little coneflower probably in June. I can't remember exactly when I planted it, but it was one of the later items that I got, but still in the spring. And it's bloomed. This is its first bloom, and I see that if the cold doesn't get to it too soon, it's going to be quite a bit more on there. And I know that coneflowers are just pretty common and easy to grow and all of that, but for some reason I let mine disappear out of the garden, and I really didn't know why. I think I have learned why, because the little seed is not the black part, it's the white part in the seed, and you have to wait just a particular time, and you have to get them later, but you also have to get them before the birds get them. So I think somewhere in between those two things I missed my opportunity, and the birds got them all. But hopefully we'll have them back in the garden again. I love the strawberry field. So glad I have a little patch right here, even though it's on the other side of my actual garden. But I'm letting them go there. That's beautiful. Matter of fact, I may need to just go ahead and pull up some of that weed control and just go ahead and let them proliferate there. That would be great. I love yellow and red. It's such an eye catcher. When you put it together. This is scabiosa or pincushion flower. It too needs to be divided. You can tell there's several little ones right there in a cluster, and I will need to do that. If you don't divide them, they will go ahead and die. So I want to definitely do that. Plus, it's wonderful to have more of them, so I need to be sure and find the time somewhere to get that done. This is one of my greatest accomplishments. And I don't know if it's just because we had some cooler weather in July because of the surrounding or the coastal hurricanes. But for whatever reason, I was able to keep this all through the season, and I just love it. I wish I could do it all the time. There will be another job for me soon, is to dig the dahlias up. I'll have to let them go. They're beginning to scraggle out on me anyway, but they're so pretty. But I have lost so many of my dahlias. Another thing I've learned is to put these into peat moss and put them, of course, in something that will breathe, like a tow sack, a gunny sack, or just a cardboard box, something that they can breathe. Don't put them in plastic where they can't get air. That wouldn't work for them. Let me come up close on one of these beautiful dahlias. And then behind it there is some chrysanthemum in bloom, and there's also a gaillardia in there with the chrysanthemum. This little pot, I'm not sure what this is called, and I don't know if it's winter hardy, so it's probably coming inside where hopefully I won't kill it. But isn't that pretty? I will show you that this little place where I cleaned out, some of them did just go ahead and die. I probably need to pull those up and put something pretty here in a pot. Just move something over here. But some of them didn't die. Some of them did go ahead and put on new little zinnias. So that's great. And they'll be there to show off a little bit for my last get together in the garden. My little geranium even struggled all summer long. This is the prettiest it's looked. But it does look great this morning in this little pot. This little one didn't do quite like I thought it would. Those beautiful bright colors. I just thought it would just really, really shine. Not that it's bad, I still like it, but it just didn't quite shine like I thought it would. But it had to go through that rough old summer's heat too, and it just kind of didn't quite make it. Some of it just kind of got brown and curled up, and then the rest of it just kind of got leggy and tall, and I clipped it back though, and it does look a lot better. But I think I can do better on this one, hopefully next year. But that's what I was saying. It's a good thing in fall to look at the things you've done and to realize what you love so much that you want to do it again. Like those impatiens in that strawberry pot. And then like this one, I don't want to do this one like this exactly again. But I do love this, and I will save some of these little clippings in a glass in the window and hopefully be able to put them out again next year. And I very much enjoyed this little pot too. It has done really pretty, even though it's just a couple of different coleus in there. I did at one time have one of these pretty profusion zinnies in there with it, but it died out. So it didn't get to shine all through the fall. but it's still a very pretty little arrangement. Just those two coleuses and how they just went prolifically and just have done so well. And the sun is coming out. It was overcast, and I think the pictures usually turn out so much better when it's overcast and you don't get the glare on of the sunlight. And yet sometimes that even makes it better when the sunlight shines on something and brightens it up and heightens its beauty. And these are some of the iris that bloom in the spring and in the fall. And my friend Renata gave those to me. And just look at this little beauty. I love this billowing diamond frost euphorbia. Let me get that dead leaf out of there so you can watch it sparkle. That's what it reminds me of, tiny little lights. I just love it. It's like it takes it all summer to get the growth, and then the summer is so miserably hot on it that some of it dies. I'm going to take this little one off of here too. But then in the fall, it's just gorgeous. Like some of those little lights are up there above it even. Don't you know she's proud to be sitting there? As proud as I am to be out in the garden this morning. I have not got to spend nearly as much time as I wanted to. There's always other chores to be done and other projects to finish, but just the moments that I do get to are so wonderful. I thought that might be a blue jay, and sure enough, that's what it was. I hope you saw that before it flew. But we'll go back over to where we are in the garden now. Another of my calabachoas that I want to be able to, next year I think I'm going to try to grow this or something real similar to this in a calabachoa and put about 3 to 4 of these in a pot, and instead of trying to put other things in there with them, although these other things are pretty too. But I just love this. I love those beautiful lush hanging baskets that I see, and this and the one I did in a mulberry pink one year, not last year but the year before that, are the closest I've gotten to having one just full and lush and looking beautiful. This side of it looks great. I think if there were more in it, the whole thing would look like that. That sounds wonderful to me. This is where that blue jay was just a little bit ago, getting him a drink. And then this is the back side of my pot that has purslane moss in it. We'll go over here and see if I can get a shot down the west fence row. And I think that's as far as it's going to let me get for you, but I remember the time when I wondered if I'd ever get this fence row full. And now, of course, the whole backyard is pretty much full. Remember when I said that these little coleus would be something we could watch to see, because they were all wilted down? Well, one of them did disappear. It lost its grip and fell right out. But this one, oh, it's got its root. It's standing to attention. It's saying, look at me. And the rest of it's looking great too. Oh, I just love fall. I always think of spring as the renewal time, but fall has its own beautiful renewal also. I'm beginning to realize it took me many years in gardening to be able to appreciate fall, because always before I basically thought of fall as ushering in winter, and winter is just not a real great time for me, or it didn't used to be actually. I've learned to love winter because of gardening, because it's my time of rest, and by that time, boy, do I need some rest from the garden. Even though that first frost is going to be miserable for me, I always can't stand it when it happens, but afterward I settle in. I realize that we all need a rest. The garden needs a rest too, and then we'll try again next spring. And here are some of the asters that I got mixed up and calling my mom's asters, because they look a lot like this, but they're very pretty. I actually need to take some of these out and get them started somewhere else in the garden. And of course, this beautiful bougainvillea is another house plant that I want to take in. I want to leave it out for my party, and yet I want it in before it gets too cold, so we'll see how that goes. I know I can't have a party and then expect everybody to be gone and expect to have time to get all this in the same evening, but I'll see what I can do. I'll probably bring some of it in and leave some of it out, and so we'll see how I get that done. This is another one of the beautiful begonias like I showed you in the front. It's got a little bit too hot in the summer, a little bit too cold on our fall nights, but it still looks gorgeous. I need to get a taller little plant stand for it and put it up on it and let it show off. Look at this. This is one of my favorite colors, like the peach or salmon pink, and I just love it. And then this one turned out beautiful too. I love the white with the dark color. Can't go wrong with Alabama sunset coleus, or with impatiens. So these tiny little pots have done wonderfully for me this whole season. This is another thing my brother painted for me. Look at this little pot of white impatiens. Isn't that pretty? Of course, this is another little thing he painted for me, this little trellis, as well as this little frog. And these petunias were getting so leggy and just flopping all over the place, and I cut them back, and look how thick and beautiful they've grown. If there's time before a frost, they'll probably bloom again. My weeping willow hasn't started changing to its fall colors yet, but it probably will soon. And this little mime, oh my goodness, I clipped it back in June so it wouldn't grow this tall, and it grew this tall anyway. So next year I need to trim it all the way down to maybe 2 inches from the ground and try that. I think it would be prettier if it wasn't quite so tall. But I won't change it now, because after the end of June, it's not a good thing to trim them back, because you cut the bloom off and they'll be blooming soon. You can see the buds everywhere. I think I see something to show you what the sun, how it brings something out. Look at that pretty blue salvia, if I can get it in focus for you there. Isn't that lovely? It's just like it's shiny. And that pretty pink Gara looks great too. And this little chocolate plant is looking terrible because it needs some shade, and because my pear tree that used to be right here is no longer here. So I'm pretty much in need of some shade in my garden for my shade plants. So I'll have to kind of see what I can do about that next season too. I'll have to find some shade somewhere. I love my new gravel around my picnic table that's sitting up straight and at the right position where you can sit and enjoy it. But this walking on this up a slope, because it does slope upward here, or slope downward from the bench itself or the picnic table itself. But this is not good to walk on that, so we're planning on getting some stepping stones, and I'm hoping that will make a difference. Look at this lovely pink strawberry fields. This is what the Silver Falls Dichandra or Dichondra looks like when you buy it in the spring. And the one I just showed you was just a little seedling that came up volunteer. But what I wanted to show you is what it looks like when it gets some growth on it by the end of the season. It's hanging down and so pretty. I always want to have at least one, preferably more, in the garden each year. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and sign off for this post, and I will see you again next week. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel.